Let's give it up for Toastmaster John.
All right, thank you, AJ, for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Today I've prepared a speech about the importance of communicating complex ideas in a way that everyone can understand. Has anyone ever sat through an explanation either at a doctor or with a lawyer, financial advisor, an IT guy, and nodded along confidently while understanding absolutely nothing? You didn't want to ask questions because you didn't want to seem lost, so you just smiled and hoped for the best. That right there, that's a disconnect. And the disconnect is between the person who knows something deeply and the person who needs to understand it. It is one of the most costly gaps in business, in medicine, in law, and just in everyday life. I feel like I live in that gap every single day because I work as a business development manager for an IT infrastructure company. My job is to take some of the most complex technologies and try to explain them clearly enough that a decision maker feels confident enough to say yes or no to a major investment. Today, I want to talk about why the ability to communicate complicated ideas simply is one of the most underrated and undervalued skills a person can develop, and why being in this room, although virtually, is one of the best things you can do to build it. Think about the last time you were confused by someone's explanation. Now flip that around and think about how many times you were the one doing the explaining, and the other person walked away more confused than when they started. And I know that it's hard to gauge if somebody's really understanding you or not, but we all have an idea when you're talking to somebody and there's just that blank stare and they're looking at you like they have no idea what you're talking about. In my industry, we sell enterprise technology, so servers, networks, cybersecurity systems, cloud migrations. The people buying these solutions are often executives or business owners who are not that technical. Don't get me wrong, they're smart, accomplished people, but they didn't go to school for this stuff. And yet they're being asked to prove 6 or 7-figure decisions based on explanations filled with acronyms and jargon that they just have never heard of before. When communication breaks down, deals fall apart, not because the solution wasn't right, but because the client didn't feel confident enough to move forward. They didn't understand, and when people don't understand, they don't act. And this isn't unique just to IT. Think about a patient who nods through a diagnosis they didn't fully grasp, a homeowner who signs a contract they didn't truly understand, a student who stayed quiet in the class because the explanation went over their head. The stakes of poor communication are all around us. So what separates someone who can explain something well from someone who can't? In my experience, it comes down to 3 things. The first thing, knowing your audience. The second is choosing the right analogy. And then the third and final is stripping away your ego. The first mistake people make is calibrating to their own knowledge level instead of their listener. So for example, when I sit down with a CTO, I speak one way, but when I sit down with a CEO whose background is finance, you have to switch it up and speak in a completely different tone. It's the same product, same solution, just a total different framing depending on who you're talking to. A good analogy is a bridge between what someone already knows and what you need them to understand. When I explain a firewall, I don't recite a generic definition that you find on Google. I say it's like a bouncer for your network. It decides who gets in and who doesn't. And this is a very simple example, and you'd hope that a CEO would know what a firewall is, but you'd be surprised. So that one sentence does more work than a paragraph of technical description. So here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes people use complex language not to inform you, but to impress you, to signal expertise. But the real expertise is demonstrated by your ability to make something simple, not by making something sound complicated. If your audience is lost, that's on you, not them. This is exactly why I joined Toastmasters and why I think this program is genuinely one of the most practical things a professional can invest in. Every time you stand up here and give a speech, you're practicing the most fundamental professional skill there is, organizing a thought, shaping it for an audience, and delivering it in a way that lands. I don't think that this is a soft skill, this is a core skill that everybody needs to develop. The pathway I'm on is presentation mastery. It's designed specifically to help people communicate with purpose, not just to speak, but to be understood. And that distinction matters a lot. So whether you're a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, a tax professional, or someone like me trying to explain why a company needs a new server, the ability to translate complexity into clarity is what separates good communicators from the great ones. And great communicators don't just close deals, they build trust, and they also lead teams. So to close off my speech, I'm going to leave you guys with a very inspirational quote from Albert Einstein. If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So the goal isn't to dump things down, it's to bring the people up to the level that you're at and walk them through your thought processes. So every speech you give in this room, every prepared talk, every table topic response, you're building that muscle. You're becoming someone who can stand in front of any audience on any topic and make them feel informed. In a world drowning with a ton of information, the person who can make complicated feel clear, I believe, is the most valuable person in the room. That's the communicator this program is building, and that is the communicator that I'm here to become. That's it.